In this first segment, I simply want to take you through some of the changes that have occurred with this newest version of Edmodo. Up in the top left-hand corner, we have some buttons that have changed not only in what they look like, but also what their functionality is. This home button right here, wherever you are in Edmodo, will bring you back to the main page. So if you navigate away from the main page, just click on the home button and that will bring you back. The next page or button is for your planner. We'll get into some detail about that later. Next we have the progress button, which if you were to click on that, it simply brings you to the progress for your different classes. I will be using that in terms of giving feedback. It would essentially, if you were one of my students, it would show you your grades, I believe. But I won't be grading your work, so I'll just be giving you feedback. So I'm not exactly sure what that will look like for you. It's a little bit different because a student's view is different than someone who is registered as a teacher, but essentially for you folks, you're my students, so it gets a little bit confusing. The next button is your library. That's where when you find materials that you find helpful, you can add them to your library. I'll show you how, I'll walk you through that process later on. And then the last button is the apps button. This is new to Edmodo. They've now made it so that you can integrate different apps with Edmodo itself. Notice my apps are pretty bleak, and that's mainly because there aren't a huge number at this point that are useful for 7th and 8th grade, but lots and lots of apps for elementary teachers. So you can click on go to store. Some of the apps are free, some of them cost money. It could be something that you put on a wish list for a parent group or something like that. And then lastly, you've got the search button up here where obviously you can search for different things on the page. Now below that you have where the post button is, and that brings you to the main post page. Folders are now, the button for that is now at the top of your screen as opposed to on the side. And you can see you have access to the different folders I've shared with you. Members button shows you everyone who's part of the Zealand Christian members group. And over here we have notifications, which we'll get into in a little bit. Then down here, recent activity. Again, this is another new part of the Edmodo site, but if you were using this for class, you could see who had been on the site recently. So when I go back to the main page, we are back where we started, and we'll get into some of these other functionalities in one of the next segments.